everybody and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Winsor & Newton Professional Acrylics. I actually got this set quite some time ago. It was in one of my haul videos, probably from the end of last year, and I picked up this set. I also picked up a couple additional colors, just these two, and I've used a decent amount of this Potter's Pink already, but really I just, these colors weren't necessary to grab, but I just wanted to try them out. So this set of Winsor & Newton Professional Acrylics comes with 12 20 milliliter tubes. The full size tubes are 60 milliliters. They're really nice packaging, I have to say. This is fancy looking with that shiny metal. So when you open it up, the camera's going to go crazy because it's reflecting a lot of light back because of the metal tubes. Like I said, you get 12 of these small 20 milliliter tubes, and while they are small, there is enough paint in here to complete at least one, if not two, smaller paintings with them. Some of the claims that the company makes is that these don't have any color shift, wet to dry, and that they're using a completely transparent acrylic binder. So let's read some of that information on the back. It says, professional acrylic is our finest quality acrylic offering, unrivaled color brilliance with no color shift, wet to dry. Keep that in mind, no color shift, wet to dry. Yeah, so I have to say that I think in my limited experience working with them that the color shift is, that's not true that they don't color shift wet to dry. I'm just going to, spoiler alert, let you guys know that now. So in today's video, we're going to be zeroing in on this set. We're going to be going over the colors that you get, some of the basic information. And what I thought we'd do for today is I've prepared this. Let me zoom out. And it will be brighter when we go to actually do this. But what I've done is I've written the information down for all the colors that I have, and I thought we'd swatch them out together. I've prepared this cold pressed watercolor paper, and I've actually gessoed over each of the squares so that it would be less absorbent of a surface and it would be closer to what it would be like if you were painting this out on a smooth canvas. And then I've used a strip of black gesso so we could test the opacity, and down here we're going to do on the white paint we'll do on the black square. And I thought that we would swatch out the mass tone of each of the colors. We'll swatch it out, and then we'll do a little glazing test. We'll glaze over itself so we can see how it builds on itself, but also a glaze just on its own to see how clear and how true the glaze would be. And for that, I'm going to be using my trusty Golden Gloss glazing liquid. So we'll talk about the pigment information, the consistency of the paints, the opacity, and the color choice for this set, because I think a lot of people, if they're going to try them, would probably try this introductory set of 12 tubes, because you get to try before you buy, kind of. I mean, you are buying this, obviously, but the price point on this, I do believe this was under $30, and, you couldn't try all these colors for that price. It's a pretty low investment, I believe. So let's go over the colors in this set. You get lemon yellow, azo yellow medium, naphtha red light, permanent alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue red shade, which I don't purchase this color for myself usually. In essence, you're getting two warm blues because this is the red shade, not the green shade. Phthalo green. But something interesting about it is that the pigment information says PB15:3. That's phthalo blue. PB15, pigment blue 15 is what they're saying they're using here. Usually you'd see PG7 for phthalo green or PG36. So that might be a surprise when we go to swatch it out. That might come out blue, but it says phthalo green. Olive green, yellow ochre, raw umber, Mars black, and titanium white. And then I picked up on my own, additionally, their permanent rose and Potter's Pink, because I just happened to be in love with Winsor & Newton's watercolors, Potter's Pink, so I had to try it when I saw they had it. So like I said, we're going to swatch them out together. We're going to do some glazing. We're going to talk about the consistency and the pigments. Let's just get right on into that. And then later on, I'm going to do a painting with these. And I will do a full review later. So today's video is going to be a first impression. So let's get right on into that. All right, so as promised, the swatches are going to be lighter and brighter. I've got better lighting situation here. I've adjusted the camera. The first color that we're going to do is lemon yellow, and it comes out of the tube nice and creamy and thick. It's somewhat, I'm not going to show you every single one, but I think it's important for you to at least see this one. It's nice and thick and buttery, but very creamy. It's not as thick as, say, Matisse Structure Acrylics, which I also have a review on my channel on, and I did live painting swatches for that video, and that video ran very long, so I feel we'll break it up into 2 videos for today. Oh, there's going to be a little glare because it's acrylics. Again, it is PY3, and the permanence rating is A. Let me go ahead and take the surface of that box, and I'll tilt the paper up a little bit so that there we go, that'll minimize the glare. So I probably put out more than what I needed, and since that is the case, I'm going to go ahead, yeah, I definitely put out more than what I needed. So a little goes a long way. Since that's the case, I'm going to go ahead, and I don't want to waste it, I'm going to do a glaze with that off to the side there. There is a little waste going to happen here with this color, unfortunately, but that's all right. So they are nicely pigmented. The color looks nice and bright. Go ahead and do a glaze layer on its own. That's nice, good clarity there, I have to say. So it seems to glaze nicely. We'll find out how it will glaze onto itself later on. I think that's a pretty strong color for PY3, and I have to say the texture of these paints seems to be most comparable to Golden from the limited experience I've had with them so far, but again, this is a first impression. We'll find out more as we go along. I'm definitely going to put out less here with the Azo Yellow Medium because I've learned that little dab will do ya. Again, very consistent, the texture. This is not my first time playing with any of their paints. I have swatched a couple of them already, and I have to say that the texture seems very consistent from the ones that I've tried so far. This is PY74, which happens to be my favorite yellow. It doesn't matter what brand I'm using, or even what medium I'm using. I'm just gonna put a little bit of water to that, I think, and bring that down. Isn't that nice? Add a little bit more. Now, I wanted to mention too, is good texture on this, nice and creamy, good body, but I'd not necessarily call them heavy body, and I don't think they're calling them that either. They're not as thick as like a Matisse Structure or Liquitex heavy body, just to put it out there, but they do retain brush stroke if you want them, and you can see for yourself that they are nice and thick and creamy, but they're not so thick that they're unpleasant, you know, which some of the Matisse structures can be. And I've also found that experience to be true with some of the Liquitex heavy body as well. I'm going to do a little glaze with my gloss glazing liquid by Golden, which is my favorite. You can glaze also with several other products that are commercially available, including Liquitex's glazing liquid, which I do like. It's very resinous, jewel-like glaze, but it dries too quickly for me. The next color that I have is Naphthol Red Light, which is PR122, and they're giving that a permanence rating of A. I agree with that in mass tone, but and for Naphthol Red, you know, this is more light, fast, and stable, I think, than PR188, but I would still be a little careful in tints. I wouldn't tint this color down. Same thing with Lemon Yellow PY3. It's pretty stable in mass tone, but in tints and glazes, just look out for that one. It might not be quite as light, fast as what they claim there. This is a beautiful color, and again, really good clarity on a lot of these. The transparency is really there, so I think they're going to be great for glazing. I've got a little glaze worked up here. very smooth, no streakiness. That's something you want to look for in a high quality paint. It doesn't look like there's a lot of fillers or opacifiers added to this paint, and I think there probably isn't. Now, the reason that I wanted to put that strip there is so that you yourself could see, depending on your painting needs and how you like to work, how you feel about the coverage and the opacity. Because some of you, you know, it's not good or bad, you know, and certain pigments are going to be more transparent versus some that are going to be more opaque. I just wanted you to have that information because depending on how you work, you might like when a paint does this or that, you know. The next color that I have for you is Permanent Rose. This one is the only one so far that I've swatched that does not come in the set. But I had to have this one just because I love Winsor & Newton's Permanent Rose. This one, I'm sorry about the phone. This one is a little bit thicker than the others, perhaps, but still very creamy, very consistent quality. I find that the texture and the consistency of the Winsor & Newton paints, their acrylics, to be very on par with Golden. I was very impressed by their creamy, consistent texture. And a lot of the time with acrylics, it can be hit or miss. When it comes to acrylic paints, depending on the pigment, some will be thicker, some will be thinner. But Golden and Winsor & Newton have done a very great job. This is a glaze with gloss glazing liquid. Very good job at consistency. All right, so good jewel-like clarity with these glazes, I have to say. No streakiness. And that's another reason I wanted to make sure I gessoed the paper so that when I did the glazes, the paper is not absorbing it, but rather you're getting more of a consistent, more accurate representation of how it would be on a canvas. If I didn't mention, and I forgot to mention, that Permanent Rose is a PV19 and it's a permanence rating of A. The next color that I have is Permanent Alizarin Crimson. This is a hue color to replicate the original Alizarin Crimson, which is PR83 and is fugitive. This one is PR177 and PV23. I have to say this is gorgeous, though it is very, very, very transparent. Great for glazing. And maybe a hint of streakiness. That PR177, again, permanence rating of A, but that pigment is absolutely light fast in mass tone, but again, watch out for the tints on that one, because the more you shear PR177 down, the less stable it becomes. However, because it's been mixed with that PV23, that might help insulate the pigment and help it to be more light fast overall. I'm not completely sure on that. Sometimes that's the case, sometimes it isn't. And here we go with the glaze. Good clarity, but a little streaky on that one. I'm just going to be honest, that one is a little bit more streaky in glaze application. But it is a beautiful color. The next color that I have is Ultramarine Blue, good old tried and true PB29. I always have to have this no matter what the situation is, whatever medium I'm working in, I've got to have my ultramarine blue. Consistency, once again, very buttery, creamy, good feel, not a lot of brush drag. It just feels nice on this gessoed surface, and very reminiscent of Golden acrylic. Let me put some of that down. They seem to dry really quickly. And, you know, the color shift here is minimal. You can see for yourself, you know, as they're drying before your very eyes, there is a minimal color shift, but this is going to be more obvious to you, I think, when you're painting with them, you know, mixed with white and stuff like that. You will notice there will be some color shift. Here's a glaze of that ultramarine blue. Good clarity, maybe just a hint of streakiness compared to some of the others, but still a really good glaze. I don't think we're going to glaze over to see how it builds on itself because I'm not sure that that's going to be really useful information for you guys. But I'm very happy to be bringing you this information and showing you how they swatch, because this is something I don't think any other YouTuber is doing, and this is information that I like. This is what I want to see when I'm choosing a paint. All right, the next color that I have for you is Phthalo Blue Red shade, PB15:3. This is where I feel that the set has gone horribly wrong. Only because there's nothing wrong with this color. It's a nice, warm blue, just like ultramarine blue, but it's deeper. But we're not getting a cool blue, a true cool blue. So this is no longer a true split primary set. That's where the issue comes in, because now you have two red or violet biased blues. So the permanence is A on this. It's going to be cooler still than your ultramarine blue, but I would have preferred a PB15:3, a phthalo blue green shade, or even one of their Winsor blues, because, you know, that would have made this set overall a lot more useful. I'm going to do a quick glaze test here. Good clarity, and I feel no streakiness on that. It's nice and smooth. That's good. Look how vibrant. Beautiful color, but I think could have been more useful if we had a warmer option, a cooler option, excuse me. Since I've got some of that lemon yellow out, I'm going to go ahead and mix a green from the lemon yellow and the phthalo blue red shade. Now, I have to say that lemon yellow is obviously a much lower tinting strength. So I'll put that, I'll just put that right here. Why not? So here's that green that I was able to mix. I mean, the tiniest bit of whatever that blue was left in my brush. Good body though, great texture, really creamy. I'm gonna have to go over to that pile of yellow and just, I mean, it takes so little of the blue and so much of that lemon yellow, but that's not perfectly mixed. Obviously, I'm using my brush. It's better to mix with a palette knife, but you could see it takes so little of that blue and so much of the yellow. Let's put a little bit more even. There we go. Beautiful. Really beautiful. It's still mixing pretty cleanly, so I guess I can't, it is mixing a really nice green, but you know, it would have been more usable if they had done the green shade of phthalo blue, but that's okay. Again, very impressed by the texture, blown away by the texture, really creamy, good quality. Now here's the one that gets a little confusing. They're calling this phthalo green blue shade, permanence of A, but it's PB15:3, which I know that is phthalo blue green shade. So a pigment blue, PB. So either that's a typo or an error on my tube, which I suspect strongly that it is, or phthalo blue's about to pop out of there. Nope, that's phthalo green. So that has to be an error on my tube, I would imagine. But anyhow, that's definitely green. Definitely green. See that swatched out. I probably didn't put out quite enough. Good color on that, nice and rich and dark and saturated, and of course it is a transparent pigment. Same creamy, consistent feel that I felt on all of these. This one might be just a little, yeah, this one has a little more brush drag and is a little bit thicker. And is it my imagination or is it a tiny bit patchier? Now with the phthalo green, you could, if you wanted a turquoise, you could mix between these two shades. So it's not like you don't have options, because you do. But now one thing that I really feel this set was lacking was a burnt sienna. They give us a raw umber and a black, but they don't give us a burnt sienna. And I feel like, ooh, look at that glaze though. Not streaky at all. Nice and bright and smooth. I can't deny that. I wish instead of a black they had given us a burnt sienna, or instead of giving us a phthalo green and an olive green, you know, I mean, there was room to change this around so that maybe we could have got a sap green and instead of the phthalo green and the olive green, and then given us a burnt sienna. Because raw umber's a nice earth tone, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be as versatile and it's not going to be as usable as burnt sienna. So that's just my opinion, my feeling on that. Of course, you could pick up a burnt sienna. You may even have one already in your collection. Here is the olive. Again, looks to be very much the same texture. That is the sign of a good paint. When you see uniformity in texture and creaminess across all these different colors, that's when you know you have a good paint. Olive green is PBK9. Oh, there's a smell to that one. Ooh, PBK9, PY129, which is green gold, and PY139. And it's got a permanence of A. Oh, good Lord in heaven. Oh, I'm not exaggerating on that smell. It's bad. It's quite strong, and it's bothering me. I'm not gonna lie. This is the only one that's had that smell, and the color is not nice either. Whew. Good Lord, what is that smell? Oh, okay. That's the only one I've opened so far that's had that smell. We're going to do a quick glaze with that as well, but that color is very streaky and very not nice. And it stinks. So that's that color. Personal preference, take it for what it's worth, but I think we could have done without that, and I would have preferred a burnt sienna in my set personally, but that's personal preference. All right, the next color that I have to show you is yellow ochre. All the information, by the way, is printed on each of the tubes. So the pigment information, this is PY43. The series number is 1, and then it has a permanence rating of AA. All the earth tones so far from what I see have that AA permanence rating. I'm not 100% sure how these permanent ratings correlate to the ASTM light fast rating, and then each of the tubes has a fake paint swatch on it. Even in the larger tubes, you're not getting a real color representation like what you do with golden, so that's something else to keep in mind. Guys, I don't know why that paint smells so bad, but it really does. The olive green, and it's streaky. I'm guessing that's the addition of the black pigment would be my guess here. Here we are with the yellow ochre. It is transparent. I believe they're calling this semi-transparent. Oh, that one also has a slight aroma. Not as bad as the other one, but it's definitely there. Nice and creamy texture, though perhaps a bit more brush drag than some of the others. And then we'll go ahead and do a glaze. Now, all of the pigments that I have, every single one that comes in this set has a rating of transparent to semi-transparent, with the exception of that yellow, Azo Yellow Medium, which has been rated at semi-opaque. This is significant because it depends on how you like to work. You might want, you might deem this as having poor coverage and not good opacity. So depending on how you like to work, this could be a good or a bad thing. I will say though that I think the strength of this paint is going to be for glazing and grisaille techniques. I think I'm going to use this in a grisaille technique for my demonstration and full review, because I think they might build up rich jewel-like glazes and give a similar appearance to an oil painting or stained glass, if I were to put that together correctly in a painting. So there's the glaze on that one. Now remember that traditional yellow ochre is going to be more transparent like that. If you want an opaque yellow ochre, you want to go with yellow oxide. And I do believe that that is available through Winsor & Newton as well. I prefer yellow oxide, actually. Hold on one second. Okay, I just wanted to run and grab my golden yellow oxide, which is PY42. This is a synthetic, but you can see it covered up the black lines from the strip of that they put there completely. So this is more yellow and very, very opaque. This is my preference, but the set came with PY43, which is more transparent and is a true yellow ochre. So it's nothing against the paint, okay? There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different pigment, so I just wanted to put that out there. The next color that I have is Raw Umber, which came out of the tube a lot thicker than the others, and that is pretty typical with a burnt or a raw umber. Now, I believe this one likely contains manganese. I'm going to look on the back. It says PBR 7. It is a AA permanent. Oh, I love Winsor & Newton's Raw Umber, though. Now, I had experience with their Galleria acrylics, and I'll be talking about that a little bit more in the review. Yeah, more brush drag, as you can see on this one. And I'll bet it's going to dry the most matte. And that is just how that is with raw and burnt umber. Umber is going to be that way. It's thicker. It's probably going to dry sunken in and somewhat matte. I can't say for sure. Are they calling this semi-opaque? They're calling this completely opaque. That is pretty accurate, I would say. Now let's go ahead and do a glaze with that one. This one also maybe has a tiny bit of a smell, but nothing compared to that one. Now, because this is an opaque pigment, it's likely not going to be a nice clear glaze. All right. Actually, it's pretty good. I'm kind of impressed by that. It still glazes kind of nice, but there's that smell again. Not terrible, not as bad as that one, but the earth tones I notice have that really strong chemical smell. It smells like poison. It smells like poison and death. I'm not trying to be morbid, but it knocked me right out of the room, that one, and it lingered. So if you're sensitive to scents or an asthmatic, you have asthma. Asthmatic means you have asthma, right? I think so. If I use that incorrectly, I apologize. That's something you need to be aware of. I'm not going to deny that that's a reality of that paint. It stinks unlike anything I've ever smelled, okay? The next color I have is Potter's Pink. This is one that I absolutely had to have because I've fallen in love with Winsor & Newton's watercolor Potter's Pink. I have 2 containers of water off to the side so that I'm certain I'm picking up clean, fresh water every time. Nice and buttery and creamy. I'm going to move that more into the shot so you can see it. Okay. Now, this is a permanence rating of AA. It is PR33, and they're calling this semi-opaque. I guess so, in mass tone, yeah. This is going to be a very low tinting strength color. I used this for a commissioned piece that I never showed on this channel. And I really do love it for it being so soft. It might not be everybody's cup of tea though, because it is such a low tinting strength. However, it worked to create some amazing neutrals and some soft neutral pinks, which was exactly what the client wanted because I was doing a piece that was for home decor. It was a decorative piece for the bedroom, and that muted pink and pinky beige colors that I used in it was exactly what the client wanted. You could see that, I mean, I used a very small amount of the glaze liquid. It's still, because it's such a low tinting strength, the glaze, let's do like a 50-50 ratio, and see if we can't get a little more strength on that glaze. Let's do. Yeah, I mean, it's really not probably a glaze color, but I'm thinking like puppy dog noses, neutral subjects, and it's nice to neutralize something that's already brighter. I found it useful for that, so it's a nice color, but it's probably not going to be everybody's cup of tea there. No stink on that one, by the way, and pretty creamy. All right, now I have their black, which is PBK11. It is a permanence rating of AA, and it's supposed to be opaque. I'm a little nervous to open this because I'm wondering if this is the cause of the stink from this, or that was PBK9, so maybe not. Let's see how that one smells. Put some of that out. Okay, I'm not smelling anything, so that's good. Okay. All right, it's safe, you guys. I don't smell anything. I'm going to put it out over here. I think it would be silly to do a glaze with it. Are they calling this opaque? They're calling this opaque. I think it is completely opaque. Let's do a little glaze. It may be a little silly to do a glaze with black, but in case you guys were interested, it's a nice warm black, I think. So my idea to do the review and the demonstration portion of this video, which will be a second video later on, I think I'm going to do some grisaille techniques. So I'm going to mix, I'm going to take advantage of my umber and my black. Usually I don't like paying for black paint. I'm not a fan of black paint in general, but I'm going to take advantage of it. It was provided in the set, and I'm going to mix some of the black and raw umber to create a nice dark warm sepia and do a grisaille painting technique, where I will do that underpainting and then take advantage of the glazing properties of these paints and how transparent they are to do many glazes on top. And I'll show that, I'll film that whole process so that that can be part of the video. Okay, so I just put out some of the titanium white, and it is a little thick. My favorite titanium white, I have to say, I only buy Golden's white now because I found that Liquitex's was like cottage cheese when it came out. And even Matisse's had really let me down. It was quite thick. Here it is. Okay. So here it is over black gesso. This is carbon black gesso by Liquitex. It is as black gets. And you can see, you know, just one pass and we've covered it up. The texture is a bit thicker than Golden's, but you can't argue with, you cannot argue with that coverage. It's here to party, okay? It brought its A game. It's here to win. Should we do a glaze, or would you guys think that's silly to glaze white? Usually if you're going to be glazing white, you would be glazing zinc white. So this is not a glazing white by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll just, since I did it for the others, I'll do it for this too. But this white is not useful for glazing. It's just not. So I, you know, take that with a grain of salt for whatever that's worth. Okay, hold on, hold everything. Future Nicole here. I just wanted to insert a little clip and make a little note to you guys because this matters. So while I compared the consistency of these paints most closely to Golden, and they are very creamy, very buttery, I think that they are a little bit softer body than Golden. I don't think that they are quite the same texture. Very close, very creamy and buttery, very comparable, but I think if you like if you've tried the Winsor Newton Galleria acrylics, that kind of in between soft and heavy body, if you like that texture, you'll like this texture. But if you are somebody who enjoys really heavy body impasto style techniques, I would steer you away from these probably. And I don't think they're going to have the coverage you want either. I think that you would be happier with a heavy body Matisse structure acrylic or a Liquitex. I don't think that you would enjoy these quite as much. So this is Future Nicole again. I've come back and I wanted to show you a quick comparison to Golden. So right here and right here, this is the Golden Naphthalene Red PR122. The ASTM rating on this is a light fast of 2, by the way. And again, this is going to fade and tint, so I wanted to be clear about that. So I've got this out on my palette next to me, and I just wanted to run and grab it to compare apples to apples, PR122 to PR122 Naphthalene Red Light. And I could see that this was covering over the black strip even better on my paint swatch there that's on my Golden tube. They do real paint swatches. But when I was talking about the coverage and the texture of these paints, they're creamy like Golden, but I can tell that Golden, like I said, is more heavy body. It is thicker, and up here I want to show you I can cover over the black line completely. I can still see some of that black gesso underneath, you know, ghosting through, but you saw from the original paint swatch, I mean, I painted it on at full mass strength and it didn't come close to doing what the Golden can do. So I wanted to put that out there. This is retaining the brush marks more. It is thicker, more heavy body. But so I just wanted to put that out there because I wanted to make sure that I'm being as accurate as possible in my description of things. That these paints by Winsor & Newton, while they seem to have that creaminess that Golden has, that creamy butteriness, they're not as thick. They're somewhere between a soft body and a heavy body. They're not soft body, but they're certainly not as heavy body as most heavy body acrylics, and they are very transparent. So I'm going to take advantage of those properties by using them for glaze techniques, like I had mentioned. I'm just going to put a slightly watered down swatch here, since we're all done with the video at this point. This isn't necessary to keep anymore. This is a watered down swatch of the Golden, and you can see it's closer to how the Winsor & Newton performed in terms of the coverage. So these paints by Winsor & Newton do not have the covering power of the Golden. They just don't. They are more transparent. And I have to wait for this to dry a little bit, but the brightness is probably about the same, but I do think there is something exceptionally bright about Winsor & Newton's pigments. And I've noticed that in their watercolors as well. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of their watercolors, I'm wondering if they're using optical brighteners in their paints in some way or another. But anyway, this is not a bad thing. This is not a full review, but I just wanted to mention if they're about the same price, go with the Golden, okay? I'm just gonna say. All right, so I've allowed this to dry down here. This is the Golden that I watered down, and I think that it is very comparable to how the Winsor & Newton performs on its own. Now, obviously, this is underbound at this point. It's not the proper way to extend or dilute this paint. You would, if you want to extend it, you want to use something like a gloss glazing liquid or a heavy body gloss gel or something like that, depending on what you want the texture to be like. And then here, I've gone ahead and I have layered this paint up and did a second layer to try and build up the coverage. You can see that even two layers of this is not as opaque or as good of the coverage as the Golden is on one pass. Now, that is not necessarily a bad thing either. I want to stress that because this paint might just be better for some of you for how you like to work. If you like to build in layers and glazes, I think the clarity of the glaze here and these paints, the transparency of them is impressive for an acrylic paint. It depends on how you like to work, because I can tell already that watered down, this is more milky, a tiny bit more milky. It's down to the nature of the pigment, of course, but I don't think Napthol Red PR122 is going to glaze quite as well in Golden as it's going to glaze here in the Winsor & Newton. So that's just an observation, a first impression, if you will. Again, personal preference depends on how you like to work, but if you're somebody who needs opaque passages of color or bold, good coverage, again, I think this just might not be your paint. I don't think these are going to replace my beloved Golden in my collection, just to be 100% honest, and I'm glad that I got to try this small introductory set where I could do a few paintings and give a review without investing too much money. I do think that the pigments here, overall, some of my final thoughts on this set, we're going to wrap up and finish up the video. I think that my final thoughts overall is that I think this set is worth picking up if you can get it for under $30. This is definitely worth a try, and I love trying new things. I'm definitely going to be using these pigments in a painting, and like I said, I'm going to go ahead and do a grisaille technique because I think that's what these are best for, is glazing. They have good clarity of color, and I think that the pigment strength is good, but it's just very transparent, so that's a property to keep in mind when it comes to these paints. Down here at the bottom, I had tinted out that phthalo green with some of the white, and I felt like even tinted out, they kept a really high chroma, which I was impressed by that. It makes me wonder if these paints are utilizing some sort of optical brighteners, and I found that to be something I wondered about their watercolors as well, is their pigments do appear so much brighter than other brands. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan in the world of their watercolors, but I did want to mention that, is that I don't hate them, but I just feel like their pigments are always so much brighter than other brands in general across the board. Overall, I think that the set is very well balanced. It's worth giving a try to, certainly. I just wish that they would throw out that olive green and put in a burnt sienna. I think that would have well rounded it. And of course that phthalo blue red shade, I think they should have swapped that out for phthalo blue green shade, and the set would have been pretty much perfect. So that wraps up today's video. Let me know if you have these paints. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Do you like them? Have you tried them? What's your favorite acrylic paint brand? Mine has to be Golden, I have to say, but I'm going to give these a fair shot. I'm going to try and utilize their strengths, and I'm going to give you a full review after I've used them a couple more times in a painting on their own. So as always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day, and I will see you guys in the next one, and God bless each and every one of you. Okay, bye-bye.